Imagine God as pure frequency, not a bearded man in the clouds, but as the fundamental vibration from which all things emerge. Now imagine wealth as a radio station. You can't hear jazz if you're tuned to static. You can't receive millions if you're vibrating at poverty. And here's the part that changes everything. God doesn't choose the station. You do. Every word is a dial adjustment. Every image in your mind is changing your frequency. When someone says the rich get richer, they're not describing injustice, they're describing spiritual law. Wealth flows to those who match its frequency, and that frequency? It's built through declaration, not desperation. Through certainty, not begging. I'm going to show you exactly how to retune your consciousness, because nobody gets rich by accident, they get rich by alignment. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Florence, I've been trying. I've been praying. I've been working myself to the bone, and money still feels like it's slipping through my fingers like sand. You watch others prosper while you struggle, and somewhere deep inside, you've started to wonder if maybe, just maybe, God has favorites. If maybe there's some cosmic lottery you weren't chosen for. If maybe you're doing something wrong, or you're being punished, or you're simply not one of the lucky ones. And I'm here to tell you something that's going to shatter that entire belief system. Are you ready? Here it is. God isn't withholding your wealth. You are. Not through some moral failing, not because you're not good enough, not because you haven't worked hard enough, but through unconscious use of spiritual law. Through negative declarations disguised as humility. Through images of lack dressed up as realism. Through words spoken carelessly that have become commands to the universe to keep you exactly where you are. You see, the core pain you're experiencing right now, and I know this pain intimately because I've walked with thousands through it, is that you pray, you work, you try to be good, yet money still feels scarce. You watch others prosper and wonder what they have that you don't. You feel spiritually confused, maybe even abandoned. You've started to believe that wealth and spirituality are incompatible, or that desiring abundance makes you greedy. And so you've built a prison around yourself, bar by bar, with every word of lack you've spoken, with every image of poverty you've held, with every moment you've called yourself just getting by, or barely making it, or struggling. What I'm about to show you in this teaching is a complete reframe of prosperity as spiritual law, not divine favoritism. You're going to learn the exact metaphysical mechanics of why some people effortlessly attract wealth, while others repel it through well-meaning prayers. You'll discover how your words are literally creating your financial reality, and I mean literally, not figuratively, and how to reprogram them. You'll understand why being humble about money often keeps you poor, and why claiming you're good isn't arrogant, it's obedience to divine law. Now, what makes this different from everything else you've heard? I'm not teaching manifesting tricks. I'm not giving you budgeting advice. I'm revealing the ancient, unchanging spiritual laws that govern abundance. Laws that work whether you believe them or not. Laws that the wealthy unconsciously obey while the struggling unconsciously violate. This isn't about deserving wealth. You already deserve it. You were born deserving it. This is about aligning with the frequency of wealth. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you understand these laws, your entire relationship with money will transform not over years, but in the twinkling of an eye. So let me take you back to a woman I knew years ago. Let's call her Martha. Martha came to me in tears one afternoon, absolutely convinced that God had cursed her family with poverty. She told me the father was poor, her grandfather was poor, and she was following the same path despite working harder than anyone I'd ever met. This woman would get up before dawn, work 2 jobs, come home exhausted, and still couldn't make ends meet. Bill collectors were constantly calling. Her children needed things she couldn't provide. And she'd gotten to the point where she believed it was just her fate, her destiny, some kind of spiritual sentence she'd been born under. And do you know what she kept saying? Over and over, like a prayer, like an affirmation, she'd say, "I'm just a poor little woman with no one but God to help me." She thought this was humility. She thought this was expressing faith in God. She thought by calling herself poor and little and helpless, she was somehow honoring God by making him her only source. But here's what I had to show her, gently but firmly. Every time she called herself poor, she was placing an order with the universe for more poverty. Every single time. You see, her subconscious mind, this powerful, faithful servant that lives inside all of us, doesn't understand humility. It doesn't understand sarcasm. It doesn't understand nuance. It only understands command. When Martha said, "I'm poor," her subconscious mind heard, "create more poverty." When she said, "Money never comes to me," her superconscious filed that as a direct instruction, an order to be fulfilled. She was praying for prosperity with her lips while programming lack with her words. Do you see the contradiction? She was vibrationally shouting, "I am poor," louder than any prayer for wealth could overcome. It's like trying to drive forward with your foot on the brake. You can press the gas pedal all you want, you can pray, you can hope, you can work yourself to exhaustion, but if your other foot is slamming the brake with declarations of poverty, you're not going anywhere. So I gave Martha one assignment, just one. For 30 days, she couldn't say, "I'm broke." She couldn't say, "I can't afford it." She couldn't say, "Money's tight." She could only speak as if supply were already present. Now, at first, she looked at me like I'd lost my mind. She said, "Florence, that feels like lying. That feels like pretending." And I said to her, "Martha, what you've been doing, calling yourself poor, that's the real lie. That's not who you are in truth. In truth, you are a child of the infinite, with access to all the wealth of the universe. That's the reality. Your poverty is the illusion." So she agreed to try. And let me tell you, those first few days were hard for her. She'd catch herself about to say, "I can't afford that," and have to stop mid-sentence. She'd be talking to a friend who'd say, "How are you doing?" And she'd have to resist the automatic, "Oh, struggling," that had become her habitual response. Instead, she started saying things like, "My supply is on the way, and I always have exactly what I need, and money flows to me easily." It felt awkward at first, unnatural, like putting on shoes that don't quite fit yet. But something began to shift. Within 2 weeks, just 14 days of changing her words, she received an unexpected check in the mail from a forgotten insurance policy. $367. Now, that might not sound like much to some people, but to Martha, it was a miracle. It was groceries. It was the electric bill. It was breathing room she hadn't had in months. But it didn't stop there. Within 2 months of changing her speech, she'd been offered a position at a company she'd applied to 6 months earlier. They called her out of the blue, said someone had recommended her, and offered her a salary double what she'd been making. Double. And when she called me, crying again, but this time with joy instead of despair, she said, "Florence, what happened? What changed?" And I told her, "The invisible forces were always ready to supply you. God was always willing to prosper you. You'd simply been instructing them to withhold through the power of your spoken word." God didn't decide Martha should be poor. Martha did. Through 20 years of poverty declarations, through 2 decades of calling herself little and poor and helpless, and the moment she changed her words, she changed her world. Not because God suddenly noticed her or decided she'd suffered enough, but because she stopped blocking her own good. Now let me tell you about another person who came to see me. This was a businessman, successful by most people's standards, but deeply frustrated with his financial life. He'd manifest opportunity after opportunity. Contracts would appear out of nowhere. Clients would reach out wanting to work with him. Deals would be presented on a silver platter, but somehow, every single one would fall through at the last moment. Money would come close, so close he could almost touch it, but then it would dissolve like mist right before his eyes. He came to me furious, not at himself, but at God. He was convinced he was being teased, being tested, that God was dangling prosperity in front of him only to snatch it away at the last second. He felt mocked by the universe, and I could feel the anger and resentment radiating off him in waves, so I asked him one simple question. "Do you believe you deserve to be wealthy?" He paused. And in that pause, I saw everything I needed to see. Then he admitted, slowly, reluctantly, "Well, I'm not better than anyone else. I don't want to be greedy. I don't want to be one of those people who has too much while others have nothing. I just want enough to get by comfortably." There it was, his subconscious ceiling, his invisible barrier. He was ordering just enough while simultaneously complaining about not having abundance. He feared being seen as greedy, so he'd built an inner guard against prosperity. A metaphysical watchman stationed at the gate of his consciousness, programmed with one mission: don't let too much in. Keep this person humble. Keep this person safe from the sin of excess. And so every time wealth approached, every time a big contract or a significant opportunity would come his way, this inner watchman would sound the alarm. It would whisper, "This is too much. You don't need this much. Remember, you're not better than anyone else. Remember, greed is bad. Turn it away." And his subconscious, being the faithful servant it is, would comply. The deal would fall through. The client would change their mind. The opportunity would evaporate. I taught him something that changed his entire life. I taught him the law of divine selection. And here's what that means. God doesn't measure your worthiness against your neighbor's. Your good is already yours by divine right, not by comparison, not by earning, not by being better or more deserving than someone else, but by spiritual inheritance. You are an heir to the kingdom. That's not arrogance, that's truth. You aren't taking from others when you claim your abundance. The universe is not a pie with limited slices where if you take more, someone else gets less. That's poverty consciousness talking. That's the scarcity mindset that's been programmed into humanity for generations. The truth, the metaphysical truth, is that the universe is infinite. God's supply is inexhaustible. There is enough for everyone to be wealthy, healthy, happy, and fulfilled. Your prosperity doesn't diminish anyone else's. In fact, the more you prosper, the more you can give, the more you can help, the more you can be a channel for God's abundance to flow through. So I gave him a new declaration. I told him to say this every morning and every night. I am a child of the divine. Infinite supply is my birthright. What God has prepared for me cannot be taken by another and will not be withheld from me. I deserve abundance. I accept abundance. I am abundance. Now, that last part, I am abundance, that's crucial. Not I want to be abundant someday. Not I hope to be abundant. Not maybe if I'm good enough I'll be abundant. But I am abundance. Present tense. Already true. A statement of spiritual fact, regardless of what the bank account says right now. Within 60 days of making this declaration, his daily practice, he signed the largest contract of his career. 7 figures. And when he called to tell me, his voice was shaking. He said, "Florence, I almost turned it down. That old voice tried to tell me it was too much, that I didn't need it. But then I remembered what you taught me. This is mine by divine right. This is part of God's perfect plan for me. And I accepted it, not because God suddenly decided he was worthy, but because he finally stopped blocking his own good. Now, I want you to picture something with me. Close your eyes for just a moment if you're able, or just let your mind's eye see this clearly. Picture that God has prepared a banquet. This isn't just any banquet, this is a feast beyond imagination. Every table overflows with food, with gold, with opportunity, with beauty, with love, with everything your heart could possibly desire. And your seat has your name on it, literally. Engraved on a golden placard at a place of honor. The meal is paid for. The door is wide open, music is playing, the host is welcoming. But you're standing outside in the cold, looking through the window, and you're saying to yourself, I'm not worthy to enter, I haven't earned this. What if people think I'm greedy for going in? What if I take someone else's portion? What if I don't belong here? What if this is a mistake and I'm not actually invited? And so you stay outside, shivering, hungry, watching others enjoy the feast, and you starve. Not because God locked you out, not because you weren't invited, but because you locked yourself out with a prison of false humility, unworthiness, and fear. Meanwhile, others, and you've seen this, I know you have, walk right in. They don't question whether they deserve it. They don't worry about what others will think. They see the open door, they see their name on the seat, and they walk in with confidence and sit down and begin to feast. Not because they're better than you, not because they're more holy or more deserving, but because they understand this one fundamental truth. The banquet is for everyone, and refusing to eat doesn't make you holy, it makes you hungry. This is the divine economy we're living in. There is no scarcity at God's table, but you must claim your seat. You must walk through the door. You must declare with your mouth and believe in your heart. I accept my good. I receive my abundance. This is mine by divine right. Now, let's talk about the first major lesson you need to understand if you're going to transform your relationship with wealth. And this is where most religious teaching has led people astray for centuries. Here it is. God is not a judge sitting on a throne deciding who deserves money and who doesn't. God is not a cosmic accountant reviewing your good deeds versus your bad deeds and determining whether you've earned prosperity. That entire framework is backwards. It's based on a misunderstanding of the nature of God and the nature of spiritual law. God is principle. God is law. Just like gravity doesn't care if you're a good person or a bad person, it operates the same for everyone, so do spiritual laws. If you step off a cliff, you're going to fall, regardless of how many good deeds you've done. If you put your hand in fire, you're going to get burned, whether you're a saint or a sinner. The law doesn't discriminate. The law doesn't play favorites. The law simply operates. And the same is true for prosperity. When you speak words of lack, you activate the law of decrease. That's not punishment. That's just how the law works. When you speak words of abundance, you activate the law of increase. When you hold images of poverty in your mind, you magnetize poverty experiences to you. When you hold images of wealth in your mind, you magnetize wealth experiences. It's not personal. It's mechanical. It's spiritual physics. So the reason you see bad people getting rich, and I know this bothers people, I know it creates cognitive dissonance, isn't because God is unjust or because the universe is unfair. It's because those people, consciously or unconsciously, are obeying the mental law of prosperity. They hold wealth in their minds. They expect it. They speak as though it's already theirs. They don't question whether they deserve it, and so it comes. The law doesn't check their character. The law responds to their consciousness. Meanwhile, good people, people who pray faithfully, who work hard, who try to live righteously, are often unconsciously obeying the law of poverty. They're speaking lack. Times are hard. Money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that. They're imagining limitation, worst-case scenarios, disasters, bill collectors, poverty. They're feeling unworthy. Who am I to have wealth when others are suffering? And the law, being no respecter of persons, delivers exactly what they're ordering. Their goodness doesn't override spiritual law. Their righteousness, as beautiful as it is, can't cancel out their mental images of scarcity. And this is why Jesus said, "According to your faith be it done unto you, not according to your goodness, not according to your efforts." According to your faith, which is really your expectancy, your mental equivalent, your consciousness. So the question you must ask yourself and be ruthlessly honest about this is not, why does God favor them over me? The question is, what mental law am I activating? What am I consistently declaring? What images do I hold in the secret place of my mind? What is my faith saying, beneath all my prayers and hopes? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. You might be praying for prosperity while fundamentally believing in your poverty. You might be asking God for abundance while simultaneously programming your subconscious for lack. And the subconscious always wins. Always. Because the subconscious is the realm where spiritual laws operate. It's the soil where seeds grow. And whatever you plant there, you will harvest on the outside. Now let me teach you something that will revolutionize your entire life if you truly grasp it. Your word is your wand. I've said this before, I've written it, but I don't know if people really understand the magnitude of this statement. Every word you speak is a command to the universe. Not a request, not a hope, not a suggestion, a command, a decree. An order that must be fulfilled by the invisible forces that govern your experience. When you say, "I'm broke," the universe doesn't hear self-pity or momentary frustration. The universe hears an order: create more brokenness in my experience. Manifest situations where I have no money. Bring me experiences that confirm this statement. When you say, "I can't afford that," you're not just making an observation about your current financial state. You're declaring a boundary that the universe must respect. Keep abundance away from me in this area. Block me from having this thing or experience. When you complain that money never comes to you, when you say, "I'm always struggling" or "nothing ever works out for me financially," you're not just venting, you're programming your subconscious mind. You're giving it instructions. You're telling it what to create, and it will obey. It must obey. That's its nature. This isn't poetry. This isn't metaphor. This is law. Spiritual law, operating as precisely and predictably as any physical law. Your subconscious mind is like a faithful servant. It doesn't question, doesn't judge, doesn't argue. It doesn't say, "Oh, you don't really mean that," or "I know you're just having a bad day." It simply obeys. and what you consistently declare, it consistently creates. Speak poverty, manifest poverty. Speak wealth, manifest wealth. But here's where people get confused, and I want to clear this up right now because it's crucial. They think positive thinking alone will do it. They think if they just think happy thoughts about money, everything will change. And then, when it doesn't work, they get discouraged and say, "This law of attraction stuff is nonsense. I tried it and nothing happened." But positive thinking alone isn't enough. It's the spoken word, charged with feeling, repeated with conviction, that impresses the subconscious and sets divine law in motion. There's power in speaking. There's power in hearing your own voice declare truth. There's power in the vibration that moves through your body when you speak with authority. You don't beg, you don't hope, you don't wish. You declare. My supply is infinite. Money flows to me easily and constantly. I am a magnet for prosperity. Unexpected income comes to me from unexpected sources. I am always provided for, always protected, always prospered. That's not arrogance, that's not presumption, that's alignment with spiritual truth. That's claiming what's already yours in the invisible realm and commanding it to manifest in the visible. And here's what's fascinating. You don't even have to believe it fully when you start. Your conscious mind might be skeptical. That's okay, speak it anyway. Because the subconscious is listening, and through repetition, through consistent, persistent declaration, it begins to accept the new truth. The old grooves of lack begin to fill in. New grooves of prosperity begin to form. And your life starts to change, not through your effort, but through the inevitable outworking of spiritual law. Let me tell you about another woman who came into my life during my early years of teaching. She was an artist, incredibly talented, with a gift that should have brought her both recognition and financial reward. But she was living in abject poverty, sleeping on friends' couches, eating one meal a day, selling her paintings for a fraction of what they were worth because she was so desperate for any income at all. And when I talked with her, I discovered something fascinating. She had this belief, this deep, unshakable conviction, that suffering made her a better artist, that poverty kept her pure, that struggle gave her work authenticity. She'd say things like, "Real artists suffer for their craft, and money corrupts creativity, and I don't want to be a sellout." Every single one of those statements was a command to the universe to keep her poor. She was romanticizing poverty, making it noble, making it part of her identity as an artist. And the universe, responding to her declarations, kept her exactly where she believed she should be, suffering, struggling, barely surviving. All while her art, her beautiful, powerful art, went unseen and unappreciated because she couldn't afford to show it properly or market it effectively. I had to show her that this was a lie. A lie that had been told to artists for centuries to keep them controllable, dependent, or willing to work for scraps. The truth is that prosperity enhances creativity. Financial freedom gives you the time, space, and resources to create your best work. Money is simply energy, and like any energy, it's neutral. It's what you do with it that matters. I gave her new declarations. My art is valuable. My talent is a gift from God and deserves to be compensated accordingly. Prosperity flows to me through my creative expression. I am a wealthy, successful, celebrated artist. She resisted at first. It felt wrong to her, like she was betraying some code of artistic integrity, but I pushed her. I made her say it every day, multiple times a day, until something shifted. Within 3 months, a gallery owner discovered her work and offered her a show. Within 6 months, she'd sold every piece in that show at prices that shocked her. Within a year, she had her own studio, a waiting list of clients, and more money than she'd ever imagined possible. And you know what she told me? She said, "Florence, I'm creating better work now than I ever did when I was suffering. The poverty wasn't making me a better artist, it was destroying me. This prosperity has freed me to actually fulfill my creative purpose." Your beliefs about money, whether conscious or unconscious, are creating your financial reality right now. If you believe money is evil, you'll repel it. If you believe wealthy people are bad, you'll sabotage your own success to avoid becoming one of them. If you believe you have to suffer to be spiritual, you'll create suffering. Every belief is a seed. Every seed produces a harvest. and you're constantly planting and harvesting in an endless cycle that will continue until you become aware of what you're planting. Now I want to teach you about a paradox that trips up almost everyone when they start working with these laws. It's called the law of non-resistance. And here's the paradox. The harder you chase money, the faster it runs from you. The more you need it, that desperate, grasping, anxious need, the more it evades you. Why? It seems backwards, doesn't it? Shouldn't trying hard and wanting something badly make it come faster? But no, because desperation is a vibration of lack. Need is a declaration of I don't have. When you chase, you're affirming that the thing you want is separate from you, running away from you, not yours. And the universe, responding to your vibration rather than your words or efforts, keeps it separate. You can work 18-hour days. You can hustle till you collapse. You can sacrifice your health, your relationships, your joy, and still stay poor if your inner state is one of fear, lack, and resistance. I've seen it 1,000 times. People working themselves to death, wondering why they can't get ahead, completely blind to the fact that their inner vibration is screaming lack louder than their external efforts are calling in abundance. So what does resistance look like? Let me paint you a picture. Resistance is resentment toward the wealthy. Every time you see someone driving a nice car and you feel that little stab of bitterness, that thought of must be nice, or probably corrupt, or probably doesn't deserve it, that's resistance, and that resistance creates a wall between you and wealth. You're essentially saying, I don't want to be like those people, and your subconscious hears, keep money away from me. Resistance is fear of losing what little you have. Hoarding, gripping, clutching every penny because you're terrified it won't come back. That fear tells the universe you live in scarcity, and so the universe delivers more scarcity. Resistance is anxiety about the future, worry about bills, about emergencies, about what if. Every moment spent in worry is a moment spent programming lack. All of these resentment, fear, worry, anxiety are spiritual blockages. They're like rocks in a stream, disrupting the natural flow of abundance that's trying to reach you. You're pushing your good away with the very emotions you think are protecting you. So what's the antidote? Non-resistance. And non-resistance means I trust, I allow. I release control over how my good will come, and I simply prepare to receive it. It means when I see wealthy people, I bless them. I say, what God has done for you, He now does for me and more. I recognize their prosperity doesn't limit mine. In fact, their prosperity is evidence that prosperity is possible, that the universe has wealth to distribute. Non-resistance means I give freely, even when it feels scary, not recklessly, but with wisdom and joy. Because giving declares I have more than enough. It breaks the grip of scarcity. It opens the flow. Non-resistance means I speak well of money. I honor it. I appreciate what I have, instead of complaining about what I lack. I say, thank you for every dollar that comes in, and trust that more is on the way. When you stop resisting, when you stop fighting, when you enter a state of calm expectation, suddenly everything shifts. Doors open that you didn't even knock on. Opportunities appear out of nowhere. Money flows from unexpected sources, not because you did something new, but because you stopped blocking it. You remove the rocks from the stream. You let the natural current of abundance carry your good to you. I remember a woman who was desperately trying to get a specific job. She wanted it so badly she could taste it. She applied, she called, she showed up at the office, she prayed about it constantly, but she didn't get it. Month after month, rejection. And she was in agony, asking God why He was withholding this from her. Then one day, exhausted from the struggle, she let go. She said, God, I give this to you. If this job is mine, bring it to me. If not, bring me something better. I trust you. And she meant it. She stopped forcing. She stopped chasing. Within a week, she was offered a completely different position at a different company, one that paid more, had better hours, and turned out to be the perfect fit for her gifts. The thing she'd been desperately chasing had been blocking something far better. The moment she released, her good came flooding in. Now let's talk about something that's absolutely critical to understand: the relationship between faith and fear. Because faith and fear are two sides of the same coin, they're both beliefs about the future. But they can't coexist. You're always operating from one or the other in any given moment, and which one you choose determines everything. Faith says, "My supply is guaranteed. God goes before me and prepares the way. I lack nothing. Everything I need is already provided. I am safe, I am protected, I am prospered." Faith is calm. Faith is confident. Faith rests. Fear says, "What if it doesn't work out? What if I fail? What if there's not enough? What if I lose what I have? What if, what if, what if?" Fear is agitated. Fear is anxious. Fear exhausts itself in worry. And here's the trap that catches most people. They pray in faith, then live in fear. They declare abundance on Sunday morning in church and worry about bills on Monday afternoon at work. They affirm prosperity in the morning during their meditation and complain about money at night while paying bills. They say, "God is my supply" with their lips, and "I'm so broke" with their next breath. This is spiritual whiplash, and it cancels out your manifestation. Because the universe responds to your dominant vibration, not your occasional affirmation. If you spend 2 minutes a day declaring abundance and 8 hours a day worrying about money, guess which frequency you're transmitting? Guess which reality you're programming into your subconscious? You must choose. Are you living from faith or fear? And I don't mean what you say, I mean what you actually embody, what you radiate, what your nervous system believes to be true. Because you can fool yourself with words, but you can't fool your subconscious. It knows where you really stand. If faith is your foundation, then you act as though your good is already secured. You don't hoard, you don't panic when an unexpected bill comes, you don't clutch and grip and worry. You give freely, spend wisely but confidently, and maintain a vibration of all is well. When a problem arises, you don't spiral into catastrophe thinking. You say, "God is working this out for my good. There's a solution I haven't seen yet. I trust the process." If fear is your foundation, you'll cling, control, worry, and push your good away through the very desperation you think is keeping you safe. You'll make decisions from panic that block your blessings. You'll reject opportunities because they feel risky. You'll stay stuck in situations that drain you because change feels too uncertain. God honors faith. The universe rewards the frequency of certainty. The spiritual law of attraction responds to conviction. But fear? Fear is a prayer for disaster. Fear is an instruction to the subconscious. Prepare for loss, prepare for failure, prepare for the worst. And the law, being impartial, will deliver exactly what you focus on. So, how do you shift from fear to faith when fear feels so real, so justified, so based on evidence? You speak your way out. You declare truth until your nervous system begins to believe it. You catch yourself in the act of worrying and immediately replace the fear thought with a faith declaration. "I was afraid, but God is my supply, and I lack nothing. I was worried about this bill, but money flows to me from expected and unexpected sources." Over and over, consistently, persistently, until faith becomes your default frequency instead of fear. Now let me teach you something that most people completely miss when they're working with these laws. It's called the principle of preparation. And this is where people get confused about spiritual law. They think declaring abundance means sitting on the couch, doing nothing, and waiting for checks to fall from the sky. They think faith means passivity. It doesn't. Declaration must be followed by preparation. Preparation is faith made visible. Preparation is your subconscious seeing that you really believe what you're saying. Preparation tells the universe, "I'm ready. I'm expecting. I'm making space for my good to arrive." If you're declaring a new home, start looking at furniture. Visit that furniture store, sit in the chairs, touch the fabric, get a feel for what you want. If you're affirming financial abundance, make space in your budget for surplus. Open a savings account, even if you can only put in $5 to start. The amount doesn't matter, the act does. If you're calling in a new opportunity, update your resume. Clean out your workspace. Buy a new outfit for the interview you haven't been called to yet. Act as though your good is on the way. Because it is. The moment you declared it, it began moving toward you in the invisible realm. But if there's no preparation in the visible realm, if you're still living like your old reality is permanent, you create a mixed message. Your words say, "I'm ready for abundance," but your actions say, "I'm preparing for continued lack." And your actions, what you actually do, often speak louder to your subconscious than your words. I knew a woman who wanted desperately to manifest wealth. She would say all the right affirmations, she had vision boards, she listened to prosperity recordings, but when I visited her home, I saw the truth. She was living like she was destitute. She hoarded everything. She refused to spend even small amounts on herself. She dressed in rags to save money. Her home was cluttered with broken things she kept just in case, and she'd wear worn-out shoes until they literally fell apart because she was afraid to buy new ones. I said to her, "You're preparing for poverty, not wealth. Look at your life. Everything in it is screaming lack. You're teaching your subconscious that you're poor, and it's believing you. Even if God Himself tried to prosper you right now, you wouldn't have room to receive it because you haven't made space for it." She was resistant at first. She said, "But Florence, I don't have money to waste on foolish things." And I said, "I'm not asking you to waste money. I'm asking you to prepare for the prosperity you're claiming. Buy yourself one nice thing. Dress as though you're already successful. Take yourself to tea. Not recklessly, not beyond your means, but as an act of faith. Show the universe you're ready to receive." She finally agreed. She bought herself a beautiful dress, something she'd never have allowed herself before. She got her hair done. She cleaned out her home and gave away the broken, useless things. She created space. And within 3 weeks, she received an unexpected inheritance from a distant relative. She barely remembered. Not a small amount enough to change her entire financial situation. Coincidence? No. Law. The universe mirrors your readiness. If you're preparing for lack, hoarding, clutching, living in scarcity, you'll get lack. If you're preparing for abundance, making space, living with generosity and confidence, you'll get abundance. Your actions telegraph your true belief louder than your words ever could. Now I want to talk about something that often confuses people and causes them to block their own blessings. It's the difference between personal will and divine will. Between forcing and allowing. Between controlling and trusting. Personal will says, "I want this specific job at this specific company for this specific salary, and I want it by next month." Personal will demands, "It has to be this way. It has to be this person. It has to be this outcome." Personal will tries to control every detail, manipulate circumstances, force doors open, push the river. Divine will says, "I release my limited vision and trust the perfect plan to unfold for my highest good." Divine will affirms, "What's mine will come to me. What's trying to leave isn't meant for me. What's delayed is being perfected." Divine will lets go of the how and the when and surrenders to a wisdom far greater than our own understanding. And here's what I've observed in my years of teaching this work. People block their biggest blessings because they're so attached to how it should happen. They want the money from this source. They want the opportunity from that person. They want the outcome by this timeline. And when it doesn't happen their way, they panic. They lose faith. They decide the law doesn't work or God has abandoned them. But what they don't see is that their way might not be the best way. What they're trying to force might not be their highest good. What they're desperately clinging to might be blocking something 10 times better. The door that's closing might be making room for a door they never imagined. God's ways are ingenious. His methods are sure. His timing is perfect. But His plan doesn't always look like our plan. His route doesn't always match our map. And if we're so busy trying to force our agenda, we miss the miracles He's trying to deliver. So the prayer becomes not, "Give me this thing I want in the way I want it when I want it," but infinite intelligence, I release this situation to you. I let go of my small plans and open myself to your perfect plan. Reveal to me my true path. Bring me what is mine by divine right, under grace, in a perfect way. And if what I'm asking for isn't for my highest good, give me the wisdom to see that and the faith to trust you with something better. Then you let go. You stop controlling. You stop manipulating. You stop trying to make things happen through force of will. You trust. You rest in the knowing that what's yours cannot be kept from you, and what's not yours wouldn't serve you anyway. And suddenly, sometimes immediately, sometimes after a period of seeming silence, doors you never imagined fly open. Opportunities appear from directions you never looked. People show up to help you in ways you never asked for. Money comes from sources you never expected. And you realize, this is so much better than what I was trying to force. This is the genius of divine intelligence at work. Let me tell you about a man who learned this lesson the hard way. He was determined to marry a specific woman, absolutely convinced she was the one. He pursued her relentlessly, prayed for her constantly, tried every tactic to win her over. But she wasn't interested. And the more he pushed, the more she pulled away. He was heartbroken, angry at God, feeling rejected and abandoned. I told him, let her go. If she's yours by divine right, nothing can keep her from you. If she's not, there's someone better waiting. He didn't want to hear it. He kept forcing, kept pushing, kept trying to manipulate the situation. Finally, exhausted and defeated, he gave up. He released her completely and said, God, I trust you to bring me my perfect partner, whoever that is. Within 2 months, he met a different woman. And he told me later, Florence, I can't believe I was so obsessed with the first one. This woman is everything I actually need. We're so compatible. She loves me freely, joyfully, without resistance. What I was chasing would have been a disaster. Thank God I didn't get what I thought I wanted. The universe knows what you need better than you do. Your job isn't to control the details. Your job is to clarify the essence of what you want: love, prosperity, health, purpose, and then trust that it will come in the perfect form, at the perfect time, from the perfect source. Now, I want to give you some practical steps you can begin implementing immediately, because understanding these laws intellectually does nothing if you don't put them into practice. And I'm going to make this very simple, very doable, very specific. First practice. For the next 7 days, I want you to audit your words. Become aware deeply, almost obsessively aware of every single thing you say about money. Carry a notepad if you need to. Make a note every time you catch yourself speaking lack. And I guarantee you'll be shocked at how often you do it without realizing. Catch yourself when you say, I'm broke. Catch yourself when you say, I can't afford that. Catch yourself when you say, money is tight, or times are hard, or I'm barely getting by, or I'll never get ahead. Each time you catch a poverty statement, immediately replace it with a prosperity declaration. I'm broke becomes, money flows to me easily and constantly, from expected and unexpected sources. I can't afford that becomes, I choose not to purchase that right now. But my supply is unlimited, and I'm always provided for. Money is tight becomes, there is always more than enough. My good is constantly replenishing. Make these replacements out loud. Hear yourself say the new truth. This isn't about lying or pretending. This is about reprogramming. Your subconscious is listening. It's recording, it's following orders. Give it new instructions. Second practice. Before bed every night, speak this declaration aloud with conviction, with feeling, with authority. Stand up if you need to. Put your hand on your heart. Make it a ritual, a sacred practice. Say, infinite intelligence supplies all my needs. Money flows to me from expected and unexpected sources. I am a magnet for prosperity. I claim my divine inheritance of wealth, health, and happiness. What is mine by divine right cannot be withheld from me. I give thanks for my overflowing abundance now. Let these words sink into your subconscious as you sleep. This is prime programming time right before sleep. Your conscious mind relaxes its guard, and your subconscious is wide open. These words will do their restructuring work in the invisible realm while you rest. And you'll wake up slightly different. You'll wake up with a new expectancy, and over time, days and weeks of this practice, your entire consciousness will shift. Third practice. Every time you see someone with wealth, and I mean every single time, bless them. When you see a nice car, bless the owner. When you see a beautiful home, bless the residents. When you hear about someone's success, bless them. Say silently or out loud, I bless your prosperity. What God has done for you, He now does for me and more. This breaks the curse of envy. Envy, resentment, bitterness toward the wealthy, these create a vibrational wall between you and abundance. They tell your subconscious, wealth is bad. Wealthy people are bad. I don't want to be like them. And so your subconscious keeps you poor to keep you good. Blessing them does the opposite. It aligns you with the frequency of wealth. It acknowledges that prosperity is good, possible, available. It eliminates competition, because in the divine economy, someone else's million doesn't reduce your supply one bit. The universe is infinite. There's enough for everyone. Fourth practice, make physical space for your coming abundance. Clean out your wallet. How many of you have crumpled receipts, expired cards, old trash stuffed in there? That wallet represents your financial consciousness. Clean it, honor it, organize your finances, even if organizing means facing how little you currently have. Create order. Create a wealth corner in your home if you want a place with symbols of prosperity. Gold items, green plants, images that represent abundance to you. This isn't superstition, this is signal. You're telling your subconscious through action, I'm ready, I'm expecting, I'm preparing to receive. And when you prepare, when you make room, the universe rushes to fill that space. Fifth practice, give something away. I don't care how little you have, give something. Money, time, service, a possession. Giving breaks the grip of scarcity. It declares, I have more than enough. It opens the flow. The universe operates on circulation, not accumulation. Water that sits stagnant becomes toxic. Water that flows stays fresh, alive, vital. The same is true of wealth. When you give, you set energy in motion. You create space for more to flow in. You prove to your subconscious that you trust the supply. But give joyfully, not resentfully. Give because it feels good, not because you're trying to manipulate the universe into giving back. There's a difference between generous giving and fearful sacrifice. One attracts abundance. The other attracts more lack. Let me tell you what happens when you actually do these practices consistently. Not once. Not when you feel like it. But daily, persistently, as a spiritual discipline, something begins to shift in you. It's subtle at first. You start to notice opportunities you would have missed before. You start to feel different about money, less anxious, more confident. You start to see evidence of increase, small at first, then larger. An unexpected refund, a gift, a raise, a new client, money from a source you forgot about. But more than the external changes, there's an internal transformation. You start to feel like a different person. The old you who identified as broke, who worried constantly, who resented the wealthy, that person begins to fade. A new you emerges, one who expects good, one who trusts the universe. One who knows, deep in your bones, that you are supplied, supported, and prospered by an infinite source that never runs out. And then, often when you least expect it, something major shifts. The big contract comes through. The dream job appears. The financial breakthrough happens, not through struggle, but through alignment, not through force, but through flow. And you'll look back and realize, changing my words changed my world. I want to share one more story before we close, because I think it illustrates everything we've been talking about in the most powerful way. There was a woman, let's call her Sarah, who came to one of my lectures years ago. She was in her 50s, never married, working a job she hated, living paycheck to paycheck, bitter about life. She had every reason to believe she was a victim of circumstances. Difficult childhood, no education, no connections. Every door seemed closed to her, but something in my teaching that night struck a chord. I talked about how we're not victims of our circumstances, we're creators of our reality through our consciousness, and for the first time in her life, something clicked. She realized she'd been speaking defeat for 50 years. She'd been declaring limitation for 5 decades. She'd been ordering poverty with every word that came out of her mouth. And she decided to change. Right there that night, she made a commitment. She would spend the next year, just 1 year, speaking only prosperity. She would bless instead of curse. She would declare abundance instead of lack. She would treat herself like someone destined for great things instead of someone resigned to scraps. She started small, changed her words, changed her thoughts, started preparing for prosperity, even though she had almost nothing. She bought herself flowers once a week, even though it meant giving up something else. She dressed as well as she could with what she had. She walked with her head up. She smiled. She blessed everyone she met, especially those who had more than her. And things began to change. First internally, she felt lighter, happier, more hopeful. Then externally, small opportunities appeared, then larger ones. She got a better job, then an even better one. She made connections with people who opened doors. Within 3 years, she'd started her own business. Within 5 years, she was financially independent, traveling the world, living in a beautiful home, radiating joy and prosperity. And when I saw her years later, I barely recognized her. Not just because she looked different, though she did. She was glowing with health and vitality, but because her entire energy had transformed. She said to me, "Florence, I wasted 50 years believing I was powerless. But the moment I realized I was creating my reality with my words, everything changed. I'm not a different person. I'm the same person, finally aligned with who I was always meant to be." That's what's available to you. Not someday. Not after you work harder or become more worthy or suffer enough. Now. Today. In this moment. You have the power to change your entire financial reality by changing your consciousness, by changing your words, by changing your vibration. Now, let me bring this all together, because I want you to walk away from this teaching with absolute clarity about what we've covered and what it means for your life. God is not deciding who gets rich and who doesn't. That's the fundamental truth we've been unpacking. God is not in heaven with a ledger, measuring your worthiness, tallying your good deeds against your bad ones, and determining whether you've earned prosperity. God is law. God is principle. God is the fundamental frequency from which all things emerge. And prosperity, like everything else, operates according to spiritual law, not according to divine favoritism, not according to luck, not according to external circumstances beyond your control. You are deciding, right now, whether you're rich or poor, not through your efforts alone, not through your circumstances, but through your consciousness, through every word you speak, through every image you hold in your mind, through every declaration of faith or fear, through your mental equivalent, what you truly believe is possible for you, what you truly believe you deserve, what you truly expect. The vault is open. I need you to hear this. The cosmic vault, the storehouse of infinite supply, is standing wide open right now. There's an account with your name on it. Unlimited funds, unlimited resources, unlimited opportunities. Divine inheritance, yours, not because you earned it, but because you're a child of the infinite, an heir to the kingdom, a beloved creation of the universe itself. The only real question is, will you claim it? Or will you keep standing outside, declaring yourself unworthy, calling yourself poor, speaking lack, programming limitation, while the banquet waits, while your good waits? While the universe stands ready to pour out blessings so great, you don't have room to receive them all? Here's your mantra. And I want you to say this with me right now, out loud if you're able. Put your hand on your heart. Feel these words resonate in your chest. Let them sink deep into your subconscious. Say it with me. I am a child of the divine. Infinite abundance is my birthright. Money flows to me effortlessly. What is mine by divine right cannot be withheld from me. I claim my good now. Say it again, louder this time, with more conviction. Like you're issuing a command to the universe. I am a child of the divine. Infinite abundance is my birthright. Money flows to me effortlessly. What is mine by divine right cannot be withheld from me. I claim my good now. One more time, let it thunder through you. Let it rearrange the atoms of your consciousness. I am a child of the divine. Infinite abundance is my birthright. Money flows to me effortlessly. What is mine by divine right cannot be withheld from me. I claim my good now. You're not broken. You've just been misled. You were taught to beg when you should have been taught to declare. You were taught to doubt when you should have been taught to expect. You were taught that poverty is noble and wealth is suspicious, when the truth is, God wants you to prosper so you can be a channel of blessing in this world. You were taught to see yourself as a beggar at God's door, when the truth is, you're an heir to the kingdom with full access to the treasury. But now you know. Now you see. Now you understand the metaphysical mechanics of prosperity. You understand that God isn't choosing. You're choosing with every word, with every thought, with every vibration you send out into the universe. And when you change your words, you change your consciousness. And when you change your consciousness, you change your vibration. And when you change your vibration, you change your reality. Not someday, not in some distant future. Now, today. In the twinkling of an eye. If this resonated with you, if something inside you just clicked, if you feel like a key just turned in a lock you didn't know was there, I want you to do something for me. Hit that like button. Not for me, but for you. Make a physical gesture that says, I received this, I accept this. I'm claiming this truth for my life. Leave a comment telling me one poverty statement you're going to replace this week. Just one. Name it, call it out, take authority over it, and subscribe to this channel, because I'll be here every single week, teaching you the spiritual laws that actually govern reality, not the fairy tales that keep you stuck, not the religious dogma that keeps you small, but the ancient, unchanging metaphysical principles that have been working since the beginning of time and will keep working forever because they're built into the fabric of the universe itself. Your abundance is waiting, not in some far-off future, not conditional on you becoming somehow worthy, right now, right here. In the invisible realm, fully formed, fully prepared, with your name on it, all you have to do is speak it into manifestation, claim it with your word, align with it in consciousness. Prepare for it with your actions, and receive it with gratitude and joy when it arrives. Go now. Speak your word, change your frequency, and watch your world transform. Because the God who created the universe, who spoke worlds into existence, who set the stars in motion, has given you that same creative power. Your word is your wand. Use it wisely. Use it boldly. Use it to create the abundant, prosperous, joy-filled life that is your divine birthright. It's already yours. Go claim it.